You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 130, Running into Your Ex or Your Ex's New Significant Other. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful Bravehearts. Today, we are talking with Julia. We're going to talk all about running into your ex or running into your family, your ex's family, or your ex's new significant other. It is a very practical and tangible how-to episode with Julia, so I'm super excited for you to take a listen. I hope you love it as much as I do. Hello, my beautiful Bravehearts. How is everybody doing? I am so excited today. I have a special guest, Julia, here with me, and we are going to talk all about what it's like to run into your ex, how not to do it, and how to do it. It's going to be a super fun conversation, and I know there are so many of you who either work with your ex or have to co-parent with your ex. I have podcast episodes on both of those. And I have a podcast episode on breakup protocols, which I'm assuming we might talk a little bit about. So if you want specific instructions on how to create that, you do have an actual episode that outlines exactly step by step what to do. And yeah, we're just going to dive into it. Hello, Julia. Thank you so much for your time. And thanks for being on the podcast with us.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So fun. So why don't you start out with just like letting people know a little bit about you? Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? How old you are? All the things that you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay, totally. I'm Julia. I'm 27 years old. I live in Boston, Massachusetts.
Represent.
Yeah, really cold this week. But yeah, I've been in the city for 5 years now. And I don't plan to leave, but as you'll hear, the city's very small.
I love it. So good. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your breakup journey? Tell us what happened. Tell us all the juicy details. What happened? Where were you before you signed up? Tell us.
All right. So I was with my ex for 3.5 years, and it was great. It started off wonderful. We've gone through a lot together, like most couples do. And then that pesky little pandemic snuck in. So I actually quarantined with him and his family for 3 months, which you can imagine was a bit of a roller coaster. But ultimately, we became super incorporated in each other's lives. And kind of like right before we broke up in the spring, he kind of like mentioned some hesitation. I didn't think too much of it because he was communicating about it. So I thought the door was open. And then one night he just broke down in tears after we had just made dinner together and said he'd been thinking about it for a few weeks and he thought the spark was gone. And that was the end of it. It ended very abruptly. So I was completely shattered on a random weeknight.
I love those weeknight breakups. So tell me a little bit about what happened then. What did you do? What are all the things that you did that you wish you wouldn't have? And then what are the things that you were like glad you did?
Yeah. So he and I had a very great friendship. I would say we had a good friendship base. So I not only lost the first love of my life, I think there are many in people's lives, but I also lost one of my really close friends. So for me, it was hard adjusting to that. I would see a funny meme on Instagram and I wanted to message him it or send him the typical text at 2 p.m. just to check in on his day. So I had a really tough time not texting him in the beginning. Even though he broke up with me, I still felt like I needed to check in on him, which was really difficult. Now that I look back on it, I wish I had just completely cut it off and focused on myself. But I am also proud of the fact that I stayed true to myself. I had a lot of people telling me to like kind of turn mean. And that just wasn't me. So I was trying to stay kind and I loved his family. So when his family would reach out, I would obviously respond. So it was a real big mix of emotions going back and forth, like wanting to be in each other's lives, but then also looking back, I do think that having complete separation just for myself would have benefited me a lot.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, what was the point that led you to actually signing up for the Get Over Your Ex program?
So 3 months after we broke up, I thought I was doing fine. The whole out of sight, out of mind thing, when I didn't see him, I felt like I was thriving. It was the summer. Every time I saw him, it was a total train wreck. And actually, you had just opened enrollment for round 7. And I was out to dinner with one of my good friends. And I looked up, and I kid you not, 8 feet away, he was sitting at the bar with his new girlfriend. And we were in the same exact outfit. So great style. But I looked at her, my jaw dropped, and I go, like, I believe in signs from the universe, and this is my sign. I whipped out my phone at the table and my credit card, and I signed up for your program right then and there.
Oh my God. I think that is like the best sign up story I've heard in a very long time. I'm like, shocker. The same outfit. Does she look just like you?
Kind of, but like the same outfit, like the same midi skirt and black crop top, like to a T. It was crazy. I think he was rattled because I know he saw me and he was like, oh my God, they're in the same outfit.
OMG. Okay, so then let's just dive right into this. What a great kickoff here, right? So your biggest thing was like running into your ex. You kept saying like, I run into my ex a lot. This place is small. So that's what we're here to talk about, because you're not the only one who lives in the same city as their ex. How did you handle this pre-program versus during the program and after the program? Like I want to know all the things. Like I want to know, what were your biggest barriers? How did you overcome them? Tell us all this stuff about running into your ex.
Yeah, my neighborhood cannot get any smaller. So I'm in a small neighborhood in Boston. And it was great when we were together. It was a short, like 3-minute walk, but in the breakup, it felt a lot smaller. So it would be random run-ins on my way to the grocery store, or truly just crossing the street. I'd spot him across the way, or he had a dog, so he'd go to the dog park like a block over from me. I saw him a lot, and I thought it would get easier, but because it was so unpredictable, every time I was completely destroyed. I had no idea how to process my emotions. When I get nervous, you could hear it in my voice, but like my voice gets a little shaky. So after I'd run into him, I'd overanalyze how I sounded, how I reacted. So it was not a pleasant experience for me.
When you would run into him, do you feel like you'd show up good in the moment? Like, would you show up like yourself in the like, what did that look like?
I overcompensated 100%. I smiled, I'd flick my hair, I'd try to say all the great things going on in my life. I completely tried to overcompensate, and I think he knew it. So I thought I was doing well in the moment, but I typically would walk away and regret everything I had just done.
Okay, so tell us, what did you do when you got into the program? What helped you, and what would you like? How did you overcome that? And then let's talk about what can Bravehearts who are listening do to help themselves.
The program 100,000% gave me tangible tools, which I am so grateful for. You mentioned the breakup protocols. I mean, I still have it in my notes in my phone, and it says like September 23rd. And I keep adding to it. And the breakup protocol, I mean, it just took away my ability to react to my body in the moment, because I'd already thought about how I wanted to show up, how much I wanted to share about my life, how much I wanted to interact with him. So the breakup protocols during the program, I don't know if you remember this, but he showed up to one of my work events, and I got like a 2-hour warning. Yeah.
I wanted you to bring this up. So let's talk about that, because that was like, was that mid to end of program?
I think it was mid. It was like end of October, beginning of November.
Yeah. So you're like halfway through the program. You've learned breakup protocols. You've been practicing them. And so now this was such a good example. Tell us all about it.
Okay. So I had the typical breakup protocols that if I see him crossing the street, that type of stuff in the grocery store, bump into his mom. So I got a warning 2 hours before an event I was putting on for work that he was going to be there. A good mutual friend of ours was kind enough to give me a heads up. Uh, I was at work, so I immediately felt my face get super red. I got really anxious. It was going to be a work event, so I had to maintain my composure. Um, and I just remember like messaging you and everyone else in our Slack channel, like, guys, emergency, ASAP, need help. So I created a breakup protocol like he had told us to, and it was really specific to that event because I knew where I was going to be standing. I knew how much I had to talk to him, all of that. So the protocol went great. But I think what I really loved in that moment was when you told me, like, okay, write the breakup protocol. The next day, let's evaluate it. Like, what went well, what didn't go well, and what do you want to change? And I think giving myself the space the next day to digest everything, I was able to see, like, wow, Julia, you did a really good job in that moment. Previous Julia would have been so frazzled. And then I was able to be like, how do I want to be different in the future? And give myself that space and that grace to recognize I'm human, but also to give myself the accolades that I had just seen my ex at a work event and maintained my composure.
Yes. I feel like it's like, let's not discount a good evaluation, guys.
Yeah.
Good evaluation feels so damn good because you're celebrating the things that went well. Your brain is obviously going to come up with things you could have done better. So we give it that space. And for that, instead of worrying and ruminating about the things that didn't go well, you can just decide how you're going to change them moving forward. No more drama. Hands are clean. We're ready to go. Love it. So good. So tell us, how did you show up in that moment with him at the work event? Like, how did that look in comparison to times where you didn't have a protocol in place?
That's a really good question. In that moment, I think I fully realized I was over him because it came so naturally. The protocol, I mean, when I was typing it in my phone, that's where I kept it so I could whip it up really quickly. I knew I was going to see him from afar approaching the registration table. So I'd have like 2 minutes. Um, and I wrote it down so quickly and with ease that I knew I was already going to show up the best I could. And previously, when I didn't have breakup protocols, I mean, it was the typical like gut punch and shaky voice, and my face would get really flushed. So I think that protocol, one, came so easily that it kind of showed me that I maybe don't need to write down my protocols anymore. It's muscle memory now because I'd run into him so many times. But also that from doing that work with the protocols, I had put myself in a position that now I could freely move about the city and not freak out every time I saw him. So that moment was so pivotal for me.
Yes. How cool is that? Like, that's the moment you realized you're over your ex. That's amazing.
Thanks.
So good. I love that. Is there anything else that you want to talk about in terms of running? Well, actually, I do want to know this. So I wrote down, when would you when would you run into your ex? What is that experience? Oh, we already talked about that. So we don't even need to talk about that. Is there anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to running into your ex?
So I know we always talk about running into just your ex, but for me, I also had the instance where the family, I was very close with his family, and his mom and I go to the same nail salon. So I would run into her, and not to make matters worse or scare anyone who's going through a breakup, but I also ran into his new girlfriend a lot because she lives in our neighborhood. And that honestly
So good.
probably worse seeing her walk his dog than actually seeing him.
Mhm.
But just also kind of having the same mindset. Like it is someone external, of someone in my life who is not me. I can't control when I see them. But I also know that whatever she is doing, aka walking the dog, has absolutely nothing to do with me. And just holding that so close to me, that phrase that it has absolutely nothing to do with me, really saved me in those moments, because seeing him, I knew how he would act. I don't know her. So I know I had stalked her on social media. That was a bad Julia moment. But just having, again, grace for myself and not allowing myself to compare my relationship with their new relationship, because no two relationships are the same.
So good. We need to talk about this more. I'm so glad you brought this up. Okay. So I can totally see multiple people resonating with this. And I would have at the time, like when I was going through my thing, I definitely looked at all of her stuff and compared myself. And it was the whole French braid moment where I'm like, she's so much better than me because she can French braid her hair. So what was like the thought process for you? Like, what were your thoughts before when you would see her in public in comparison to now? You mentioned that it's more about like, it has nothing to do with me, but how did you get there? Like there's a gap between where you were and where you are now, but how did you get there? How could you paint that vision for a Braveheart who's really in it right now and feeling all the feels about seeing the new girlfriend?
Absolutely. One, I'm sorry that whoever's listening to this, if you're encountering this, it's okay. You will get through it. But I think it was finally, I kind of remember the moment vividly. It was a couple weeks into the program when you talked about how important the relationship is with yourself. And I thought I had developed a solid foundation for myself and like knew my self-worth. And then when we really got into it, I realized I am pretty mean to Julia. I'm a great friend and daughter and sister, but when it comes to being kind and patient to myself, I'm really not. And I think that's when it flipped for me, was when I recognized, I was like, you know what? You're a little goofy. You might mess up here and there, but ultimately, you know, you're a good person. You're confident in who you are. You know your self-worth, and the fact that I had built that relationship internally, nothing in the external world was going to affect me.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that until it happened.
Mm-hmm. So good. So I'm trying to think about like, how could someone do that? Anyone who's listening, how could they like build that relationship with themselves? Do you have anything that's top of mind?
I do. So I did a lot of journaling. I wasn't a big journaler before this, but I was so desperate right after the breakup. Like, I'll try anything, truly. So I started journaling, and something I started to do was like each day I wrote down 3 things I did well. Something as simple as you didn't burn the chicken in the oven, like very, very silly, but little accomplishments for myself. And then I also tried to physically, I don't know if this will work for everyone, but actually laugh at myself. Like if I trip a lot, I think everyone's picked up on the fact I'm clumsy on this podcast. But if I tripped, instead of getting really embarrassed in front of a bunch of people, I would just kind of giggle and shrug, even though I felt mortified on the inside. The more I did that in my physical world, the more I actually embraced that like feeling on the inside.
So good. I love that. What a great example. And what's like, I love those suggestions. So thank you. So good. All right. So, is there anything else that you would tell a fellow Braveheart who's listening that sees their ex frequently? Or like you said, maybe even their new significant other, like if you're seeing the new girlfriend or the new boyfriend, is there anything else that you would share?
Yeah, I think I would just say that there's absolutely no right way to get over your ex, but investing in yourself makes it a heck of a lot easier.
Oh my gosh.
Like you're gonna go through your own things. I did not share all the skeletons in my closet at the beginning, but it is truly, you will never regret investing in yourself, because ultimately it's the longest relationship we'll ever be in. So why not put the most effort into it? Like it will shock you how easily you are able to see someone who you previously loved tremendously and recognize that they played an important role in your life, but that I love myself enough to know that it wasn't for me. And whatever is ahead of me will be whatever I want and what I make of it.
Oh, so I love it. I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Julia. I feel like this is going to be super helpful to those who are listening, who run into their ex, maybe the family, maybe even the new significant other. And I love the tangible tools that you provided them because that's so important to me. And I'm sure that'll be so helpful for them. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Yes. All right, you Bravehearts. I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.